So this over here, building a mobile app MVP. The QR code there, that's a QR code to my YouTube. There's about 300 videos on my YouTube website about what I'm going to talk about, which is basically he kind of dropped the lead, building mobile applications with Ionic Framework. So this is just a little bit of information about who I am. I'm the CEO of Clearly Innovative. It's a web and mobile development firm. I started 18 years ago in Washington, D.C. to increase the number of black and brown folks in tech. The bulk of my company is based on folks who have non-traditional backgrounds. Basically, they do not have computer science degrees. We hire, we train people, and we pay them. That's how I started my company. Pre-COVID, we got up to about 23, 24 people. Post-COVID, we took a hit like everybody else. But I'm happy to still survive, to still be in business 18 years after starting. I also taught web and mobile development, Ionic Framework at Howard University for 2 years. I ran an 8,000 square foot innovation space in Washington, D.C. in partnership with Howard University and D.C. Mayor's office. I am a developer. I started coding in 6th grade in 1979. So I've been doing this for a minute. I've seen some things. And the rest is y'all already heard. So this is what I'm talking about. How to build full stack mobile applications leveraging existing JavaScript skills and best of breed off the shelf solutions. Pause. Saving time, providing the ability to iterate quickly to product market fit. So basically what that means is, I think it's on my next slide, so I'll just hop to it. The goal is to spend the least amount of money to determine if you want to spend more money. You can translate money to time, right? So I can say that again slowly if it's not clear. The least amount of money to determine if it makes sense to spend more money. Tons of people come up with ideas for mobile apps they want to build, and tons of people have shitty ideas, right? And once you realize it's a shitty idea, you want to start building something again. And so the whole idea is to be able to do that very quickly, to iterate quickly and get to where you want to go. There's somebody back there talking. So, as I said, the idea here is to leverage your existing skills. So who here, I'm assuming folks here know JavaScript, can build a website, pat yourself on the back, you're a mobile developer, right? So feel good, feel good. And so, and the other trick is folks say, oh, I got a mobile app, I got a mobile app, I got a mobile app. You need to build a mobile solution, not a mobile app. That's why leveraging all of your skills, specifically your JavaScript skills, are critical. A mobile solution is the app, it's the console, it's the content management system. In some cases, it's the client-facing site. And if you really are trying to build a product, you need to incorporate some sort of analytics into it also. So these are all things that get you to a complete mobile solution, not a mobile app. Here's how I say, mobile apps are for hobbyists, mobile solutions are for entrepreneurs and business owners, right? And this is coming from my experience running a services firm where every hour I spend on shit, I need to get paid for. Every hour I'm not getting paid, I'm losing money. So, here's the approach. And I'm speaking from, is it possible to get whoever's talking back here to go away? Because he's kind of throwing me off. So the idea is to take your website. All right. Thank you. So the idea here is to build a website leveraging whatever JavaScript framework you know. When I started out, I did Angular. Are there some Angular folks, people still out here still using Angular? There's always a couple, right? But we moved on past Angular. First, we transitioned to React at our company, and now we're kind of arguing back and forth between React and Vue. I can program in React, I can program in Angular, I can program in Vue. The live coding I'm going to do today is in Vue. I will post a video of what I'm going to live code in Vue and in Angular. Well, I'll get someone on my team to do the Angular, and then I'll also do the React. Also, you can use Svelte. So basically, anything you could build a website with, pretty much, you can leverage Ionic Framework and, well, you can leverage Ionic Framework and Capacitor to get it on a mobile device. So that's the goal. I can build a website, I can use capacitor, I can package it up, I can put it on my phone, and I can show it to my friends, and everyone could be all excited. That's where we want to get to. So we at my company, we leverage Ionic frameworks. So this is something I want to make clear, because a lot of folks, when they say Ionic, first thing people think of is Angular. So A, walk out of here knowing it's not just Angular. 2, there's Ionic Framework, the components, and then Ionic Capacitor, which is a tool that you leverage to package your website or your solution and get it on a mobile device, right? So you can build with native Vue, I don't want to say native Vue. You could build a Vue website, you could package it up with Capacitor and get it on your phone. You can use, this is just a long list, you could use any of these component frameworks to build your user interface. I strongly encourage you the first time out, if you don't know anything about building user interfaces, to not do that. Because then it's just going to look like a shitty website on a phone. And that's not what you want. You want it to look like a mobile application. People who use mobile phones have a certain expectation of how the phone works. They have a certain expectation of how, when you click on a menu, what should happen, size of the fonts, all of those things, they're expectations. Mobile apps don't come with the help me. Like, there's no user's guide. So if your UI isn't the way people expect it to be, they don't know how to use your app, and it just gets thrown in the bin. If you want to go with Ionic Framework, which I strongly urge you to do, this is from their website, Mobile SDK for the Web, Open Source Mobile UI Toolkit for Building Modern, High-Quality Cross-Platform Mobile Apps from a Single Code Base. So basically what that means is, for some of the older folks out there, think about when Bootstrap first came out, right? Bootstrap gave you all the components that you needed to make a website, to make it look as professional as they possibly could. So when I try to explain Ionic Framework to folks who aren't really familiar with it, I said, just think about it as Bootstrap for mobile applications. There's a couple of extra things that it adds that is critical, and when I look at other mobile frameworks, like the animations are critical, right? The routing, there's specific components like the calendar and a picker, and the ability to make the mobile application look appropriate based on its platform. So when you look at an app on an Android phone, there's certain things that you expect. When you look at an app on an iOS phone, there's certain things you expect. Some of the frameworks don't handle that for you. So you open up your app on your Android phone and it looks like an iOS app, or you open your iOS app and it looks like an Android app. Ionic Framework can cover that. There's nothing wrong with starting one place and moving to another place. That's another thing that folks need to remember. I've been building software for a long time. That app you built 2 years ago is probably ready to get updated, right? So the goal is to just build something. Get it out, figure out what's right, figure out what's wrong, and iterate. Okay, so these are the command lines for starting a project. Because remember, back here I said you can start with any framework and then add capacitor. But if you want to start with Ionic, these are the command lines that you could use to kind of get your Ionic project up and running. First, you need to install the CLI. Then you use the command Ionic start my app. Tabs is the type of app, so it'll build out an app with I think 3 basic tabs, so you get an idea of how the tabs work. It'll put the routing and everything in there for you. And then you just run Ionic serve, and that's how you get it to run in a web browser. One of the things that I find powerful with building apps using kind of I'll say the Ionic ecosystem now, is kind of the developer experience. It's not kind of this jump from, like you might get if you use React Native or if you use Flutter. It's like, I know how to build a website, I know how to debug a website, I know all my website tools, I can use all of those same tools to build my mobile app now. And capacitor to me is what the secret sauce is, right? That's the killer, right? Because that's what gets it on the phone for you. That's what has a plugin ecosystem that helps you get access to the native APIs on the phone, to do the extra things, to take your website now that you just built to the next level, to start to function like a mobile application the way clients would expect it to function. See, there's a lot more steps you got to do to get capacitor on. There's a plugin that I'm going to use in my walkthrough, a plugin for Visual Studio Code that kind of simplifies all of this for you. So first you need to kind of install capacitor, then you initialize your project. Then you package it up to get deployed on the phone. Then you add your capacitor platforms, and then you actually run that on your device or your simulator. All right, now that we have some quiet, here's the live coding exercise, and please pray for me because I'm about to. So what we're going to do is I'm going to leverage Ionic Framework to build a Vue app with tabs. I'm going to show it running on a website, and then after it's running on the website, I'm going to add capacitor to it. Since I have a Mac, I'll add iOS support to it, and then I'll deploy it onto my simulator. And when I was standing out in the hall, someone said, am I going to show her how to build a mobile app in 3 days? I don't see her here, but I will hopefully build a mobile app in less than 18 minutes, since that's all I got left. So, and I still have more to share. So let's try to switch over. Where is my Visual Studio Code? Is it up? Because it's not switched here. Is it? I need to get my IDE is not showing on the screen. I just swapped over, or I can't swap over. I switched screens. I'm swiping back and forth, and nothing's changing. All it's showing is still my presentation. I mean, I could just go through the rest of my presentation and just figure it out at the end.
Yeah.
So, here, I need to get here.
Okay. Do you want to unplug and plug it back in?
No, the usual. Oh, wait. Oh, so I thought that I would be able to just swipe over.
Yeah, but you're still in your slideshow, so just minimize your slideshow.
So do I need to kill?
Yeah, minimize.
End show? All right, there we go. Thank you. All right, so this is the Visual Studio, the Ionic Visual Studio Code plugin that I was talking about. I have another project open. Let me close my project. Actually, let me just shut everything down and start again. Okay, so we'll go here. I'm just launching Visual Studio Code. And I'm in a project I'm in a folder I've already called test project. This is the Ionic plugin, and it pops up and it allows you to pick, well, first of all, the font I hope is big enough everyone can see. Yes? Allows you to pick a new project. I'm going to pick a Vue project. You can pick React. You can pick Angular. That's if you're using this. If you're not, you can also just say Vite and it start a project and then add capacitor to it. I'm going to select the tabs project that I want to start, name test project, and let it run. And let's pull this up a bit here. So this is running all those command lines that I showed previously. This should make it a lot easier for you. So it's creating the project with the tabs. It's it's initializing it for capacitor. It's running npm install. It's kind of doing all that stuff for you. Ionic's trying to sell you some support here. Everybody's got to make a buck. And then now it has my project in there. And then on the side here, if I just want to click web, it should hopefully start it. And this is your basic web application. That's running. Here are the 3 tabs. Close this. So you have tab 1, tab 2, tab 3. And where did my code go? I have some time. Let's take a quick look at the code. So we switch back here. Source as your regular, and just so to let you know, there's no real magic in here. This is just regular Vue. You have your Vue main, you have the Ionic plugin, your app view, then your tabs, and and then kind of your router. So that's what you got. Now the next part is we're going to add so we already have the web. So now Got to make sure you build it. So the build is kind of packaging it up as if you were going to deploy the website somewhere. Oh, I forgot this cursor error. So hold on, I need to install another package. npm install cursor. I couldn't figure out what this problem was last night. I tried to figure it out. It's some node version thing that's going on. All right, so cursor is now installed. So now I can build it, like I said, to package it up. And then now you need to add your platform. I'm going to do iOS. So you click Add iOS to your project, Add iOS. So now this is adding iOS support. iOS support is added. And I believe now I should be able to, up here you see the iOS. I'm going to run it on iOS. It allows you to pick the simulator that you want to run it on. I've tested it on this one multiple times, so we'll stick with that. And once again, these are now all the commands that you saw listed before on how to deploy on your phone. This plugin handles that for you. I highly recommend when you start, download the plugin, put it in Visual Studio Code. It will save you a lot of time, and it'll probably keep you from bailing on Ionic. So now here is the app running on my phone. The tabs 1, tabs 2, tabs 3. So even with all the hiccups, we have an app running on device in a short amount of time. I was going to try to actually have my phone connected, but I didn't want to get all caught up on all that too. So we just got it on the simulator. Now the next thing is let's add a plugin. So the plugins are a collection of, for lack of, I'll call them native extensions. They basically give you access to native functionality for the devices. There are some that are built by the community. There are some that are built by Ionic, and then there's some really expensive ones if you're an enterprise client that you can pay like a child's tuition to use. So, and recently they released a new tool, so now I can just go in here under plugins. So this lists all of the plugins that are already added to my project. I can click on this link, and I think what's the term? It's like a plugin repository that of all the plugins that you can search for and add. I am going to use the share plugin. So I can search for share. You have a page for it. It tells you the platforms. You can click to get more information, go to the GitHub repo, everything. And then I just click install. And it will now install all the code for the share plugin to run on iOS or Android. And I think this plugin also has web support, so it'll also work in a web browser. All right, so now the plugin is installed. Yep, there it is, the share plugin, and now we'll add it to our app. So P. This is using TypeScript, which will make it a lot easier for me to quickly get this thing on here. So this is the tab page right now. These are the Ionic elements, so it's the page, the header, the toolbar, and then the content is really what it says. It's for the content that's going to render on your page. I'm going to remove all that stuff because I never use it. And then I'm going to add an Ionic button. And then I know I need to import it. So now we have our button imported, and then we are going to import our plugin. I don't know how to type. I still touch type. No, sorry, hunt and peck. So our plugin is share, S-H-A-R-E, import from capacitor share. And then since the TypeScript is there for you, it should make it easier. So const do share equals async. Then now we have our share plugin. And then once again, because it's type, I can see, so can share. This is not going to be beautiful code. It's just to get it to work. I'm not going to check for errors or anything. So we're going to share. And then for the share, we have the text that we want to share. This is share text. And then down here, we will share a URL. I heard some guys say you always got to promote yourself. So I'm going to promote myself. URL, HTTP. That's not right, is it? Yes. And async is await, AWAIT, ASYN. Do share, oh. There you go. And then let's add this function to our button. And I'm going to click. All right, so the goal is to click the button. It should bring up your share sheet. On iOS, it'll bring up the share sheet. On Android, it'll bring up Android's version of the share sheet. But also, the interesting thing that I found, like I said, this supports the, where did my web browser go? Hello? And we'll just click it again. This should bring up the share sheet for the web. Yeah, so you can see it brings up the share sheet for the web, so this plugin supports web, so I can theoretically, hopefully nothing bad on my Twitter page. Yeah, so there's a URL that was there for the share, but we're here to build mobile apps, so let's deploy this to my phone. The cool thing about the plugin, it remembers the device that I had it connected to before. All I need to do is push the iOS. It will recompile everything. There's a way to do this with live reload for faster kind of iteration, but I just wanted to get the basics down. So once again, it's recompiling, creating kind of the dist package, puts it over to the phone, and then deploys. So now this is my phone. That happened pretty quickly. It's still the same tab app. I click share. Since this is my simulator, I don't have Facebook, Twitter, all those other things on it. But I can share to my reminders, so you can see there's a share text, there's a link to my website. I click add, and then I think I have my reminders open, home, reminders. This is the share text. Click the link, and then it should take me to clearlyinnovative.com. So, thank you. And like I said, I'll record doing this for Android, and I'll record doing it for React, and I'll post it also. All right, so now I'm back to my presentation. Hopefully this comes back. Okay. So, as I stated earlier, live code, there's tons and tons of capacitor plugins. You can go to the website and find them, or if you use the Visual Studio Code plugin, it makes it easier to get access to them. And they're key ones that you want, so like Stripe, everybody has to sell something. There's a nice plugin that can support the sharing. Push notifications are critical, camera map, fingerprint reading, geolocation, or you can actually build your own. They have, there's documentation, templates on how to kind of build your own plugin for iOS or Android. But remember, we're building a full stack application, and we're trying to leverage our existing skills to do it. And so if we start talking about the back end, there's so many clients that I work with that I have seen piss through all their money, no offense to AWS folks, like building a back end on AWS for 3 clients. I actually had one guy that I worked with who had a development environment, a staging environment, and a production environment for 20 clients, and a development team of 3 people. And so you have to understand what his nut must have been to kind of manage and pay for all of that back end. And so once again, the whole idea is to spend the least amount of time and money to determine if you need to spend more. So there are tools that you can use for your back end. Our go-to in the past has been Firebase. We're kind of transitioning a little bit over to Supabase. We're kind of going back and forth. But the idea is a lot of the basic functionality that you need for your back end, you can leverage these tools to build it, which once again allow you to iterate quickly, get the basic functionality that you need. I'm certain most people here have heard of Firebase already or have leveraged it. Yes? Yes? All right. So, and what it is, you think about the things that you're going to need for your business that you don't want to spend a lot of time building in the beginning right? So you need your user management, your social login. With Firebase, you get the NoSQL and real-time database, push notifications, and storage, videos, binary file, and cloud functions. So you don't necessarily need to build your backend. I don't need to write my Express server or find something else. I can figure out how to leverage it using the cloud functions to get started. Supabase is very similar, has a lot of the same functions. The main difference, A, Supabase is newer, but B, Supabase is a, Supabase is a SQL backend, as opposed to a NoSQL backend that you have in Firebase. So if you like SQL, if you're very comfortable with SQL, go for it. You get into some additional management, what I would say management situations of your backend, dealing with migrations and all these other things as you're changing your database schema to just get it right that you don't necessarily run into with Firebase. Since Firebase is NoSQL, it's a free-for-all. You just throw it in a JSON object, slam it up there, and it's saved. You can't roll like that with Supabase. You got to spend a little bit more time thinking about your back end. And so here, as I said, here are some of the trade-offs. I worked with a client, and he wanted to go with Firebase. We started work with Firebase, and then he wanted to build a social media application. And then once you go down that rat hole of trying to manage friends, followers, groups, blah, blah, like, in my humble opinion, unless someone's cracked the nut, like that's something you really don't want to go too far with on Firebase. It just doesn't work. I think a SQL database works better for you. Firebase does have a boatload more solutions than, services that Supabase does not have yet. I think it's got crash analytics, it's got some built-in A/B testing, it's got Google Analytics, it just has a bunch of other things. But these are just things for you to think about as you make your trade-off. And also here's some other tools that I have used. And some of the things that we do is we leverage tools like Nuxt, Remix, Next to be our backend, right? So pretty much with all of those guys, you can basically create API routes, and then all you do is you spin up your backend in Nuxt, you create API routes, and then you point your mobile app to those API routes. And then also because we usually have to provide content management solutions to our clients, so then we can just build a front end in Nuxt or in Remix or Next, have the front end obviously use those same API routes as the mobile application, and it just simplifies our effort. And as you know, and then once again, I'm still doing everything in JavaScript. I still have the same basic mental model on how to build applications that I can leverage across everything. I don't have to do this shift between like, oh, Flutter's cool, I've built this application, but Flutter is clearly different than building a JavaScript application. React Native, it's not a website. I mean, there are some different things that you need to do to make it work. It's a slightly different mental model also. Things like TanStack Query, who's heard of React Query? If you haven't, you need to look at that shit. It's awesome. Like it will, like the time that I've spent in my earlier programming life trying to figure out caching and all this other stuff, like TanStack Query, they have it now for Vue, so it's Vue Query, React Query. Look at it, you'll thank me later, I assure you. A capacitor was what I just spoke about, and then I had Supabase and Firebase. And so this is wrapping all this stuff together is what we at Clearly Innovative call full stack mobile development. Like we've had projects where we've had two guys on the whole project. They're JavaScript developers, they know React or Vue, and they build the thing from front to back. And because it's all JavaScript and it's a language that we understand, we can easily transition folks between projects and get solutions built and keep our clients happy.